Hey everyone, Anthony Venuto here with InTouch Mortgage Solutions. It's Friday, Finance Fridays, and on this episode, we're going to talk about Ontario housing and affordability, what the government is or is not doing in order to make housing more affordable. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss this. Housing affordability has been a major topic for many Canadians, whether you're an existing home owner, whether you're a first-time home buyer, millennial, and or new to Canada. Obviously, housing affordability in Ontario continues to be out of reach for many Canadians, and it doesn't seem that it's going to be getting any better anytime soon. And in a report, an economic report done by CanCEA, which is the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis, an independent body, a lot of information about taxation and new construction homes has come out, and I think it is very interesting to dissect some of their points. And what I want to do is talk a little bit about obviously the immigration component of it, as it mentions it in the particular article, and break down some of these conversations point. Obviously, first and foremost, I think it's important to address at a very high level what the report is looking at so that we can all be on the same page. So if you look at these particular charts, it shows that, since 2010, Ontario has been in a housing affordability crisis, which should not come as a surprise, with the unaffordability of homes having increased by 58%. Much of this problem has to do with the availability of new homes, right? The actual production of new homes. We have existing inventory, you have new construction, and I believe there's a significant imbalance. Now, you have to look at Ontario's population as opposed to Canada. I mean, obviously, we saw 1 million new Canadians arriving in Canada in 2022, with the projection for more to arrive in Canada in 2023. And although we're starting to see some decline in these applications for permanent residencies, this is still a major push for immigration, and the reason behind it is obviously to replace or recover some of the aging population. So when we look at some of these data points, you see that Ontario's population must grow to counter the effects of the aging society, and without immigration, the number of dependents, or those people who are too young or too old to work, would grow by about 40% by 2050, compared to the number of young people who can work and support them. Additionally, the information points out that by 2050, Ontario would have the same number of non-government workers as it had in 2008 without immigration. And you can see that it would be a major problem if we're not replacing some of these individuals, whether it be in different sectors, especially in construction, where you need to be sort of able to work in those particular fields. And as a lot of these baby boomers start to retire, who's coming in to replace them? So the construction of new homes, of course, is vital to supporting the population growth. We need to house these people. If they're going to come into the country, they need to be able to find affordable rental situations, right, where they can close to transit, and as they start up their lives, not being hit over the head with these significant rents. And obviously, when a lot of these new to Canada individuals arrive, whether it be by train or boat or whatever it is, if they're coming across the country, they're not landing in Ontario saying, hey, which way to Thunder Bay? They're going to look at the major urban centers like Toronto and the surrounding areas. And those obviously costs to buy and rent are very expensive. So, it points out that, it's vital to support that population growth. In order to support that population, Ontario needs to build new homes, and they have been decreasing. While the population has grown, by 68% since the 1970s, the number of new housing completions has dropped by 23%. And obviously, this is a systematic problem. It's very challenging to bring in more people without having a place to put them. And ultimately, how the government plays into this, not only with the taxation components we'll get into, it's that the public infrastructure investments funding required to support the growth, right? So the federal government giving back to the provincial and municipal governments to build those roads, highways, and transit, all these things that are required are just not there. So the investment funding required to support growth trends is 30% below what economic analysis would otherwise suggest. So as we move forward, right, you have to look at some of the results of what this data is telling us. So the tax burden on new housing has significantly increased and now accounts for 31% of the purchase price of a new home in Ontario, where those taxes are going to each particular set of government. So the three being the federal, the provincial, and the municipal, and what is basically being kicked back when that happens. And it goes on to sort of look at how the government is the largest beneficiary of new home construction, accounting for around 31% of the purchase price of a new home. And that's 3 times more than residential construction builders and housing material suppliers. So, I mean, 31% of that home price is actually going to the government, right? This is huge. That's a huge amount of tax that could be reduced maybe from the federal, provincial, municipal government, taken away in order to make housing more affordable. But the problem is that if the government was to say, look, we're going to reduce the taxes on these new home constructions, well, how is each level of government going to make revenue? How is it going to collect taxes? Are they going to increase income taxes? Are they going to tax primary residents on their homes if they sell them? Are they going to tax land? Like, what is actually going to happen for them to make up or recoup that money? So, in my opinion, when you look at something like this, well, it shows that the government is profiting massively from new construction homes. And builders are sort of stuck in this area where it's like, well, we need to build because, yes, we make handsome margins, but on those margins, we're making just enough. And then the government's taking this, huge chunk, which is just making it even more expensive for us to build these homes, and then let alone for the end user to purchase it. And of that 31% tax burden on the new home in Ontario, the federal government is the largest beneficiary with a 39% share. However, the federal government contributes only 7.1% of the public infrastructure investment required for Ontario to grow. That means they're only giving back a very small percentage back to the province, to the municipality, in order to aid in these developments which the government has promised, right? How many times have they looked at it as a result? And I hate it when we hear our government and our municipal saying, hey, we're going to open up this land, this conservatory land to build new homes, and we're going to change access so that you can build more high density homes closer to transit. But at the end of the day, where is that money going to come from, right? Like, the municipalities are either going to lose billions of dollars in revenues because there's permits and things that cost the builder and the developer to actually get these projects off the ground. Not alone to mention the timelines, right? Like, anyone that's purchased a pre-construction condo should be aware that you're buying a pre-construction condo. They're usually 4, 5, 6 years out, as opposed to buying, let's say, a single-family detached home, which could take a year to 2 years to build, depending on if there's any labor strikes or any material issues, but generally the timelines. And while we're on that front, we hear all the government's trying to tackle affordability by doing all these maneuvers, but they're missing a huge component of what we call the missing middle. Now, what the missing middle is looking at condo high-rise, right? We have a whole bunch of high-rise in Toronto condos that are being built, and we have single-family homes, but what is actually being built in the middle to accommodate larger families? I mean, here in Ontario and in Canada, I think the average family is around 1.2 to 1.4 per household. The family unit is not growing at an extreme pace. That is something obviously due to other socioeconomic reasons, probably, buying a larger house, affording the mortgage and other things. But a lot of these new to Canada individuals that are coming, maybe they're coming from a different culture where families are larger, and a 2-bedroom condo won't just satisfy their needs. They'll need something with more rooms in order for them to accommodate their growing family. So all in all, I mean, when you're thinking about the cost of building a home, the taxation, who's benefiting from that particular build, right? Is it the builder? Is it the end user? Obviously it's going to create more inventory, but if we were to reduce some of those taxations on those homes from the federal, the provincial, and the municipal, well, we could see some home prices come down, which begs the question of affordable housing, right? So to end the video off, I mean, this is something that we've talked about extensively on the channel. We have NIMBYism, not in my backyard, so a lot of people don't want to see these higher density projects in their area. They also talk about affordable housing. A lot of these people say, yes, we want to build affordable housing. However, we're not going to see Canadians lined up saying, hey, we want our home prices to come down, because for most Canadians, that is their largest asset. So you have these push and pull factors, and that is sort of why when I look at these particular analysis and I look at how things are sort of unfolding, are we going to see housing become more affordable if we're taxing homes, we're taxing the labor, we're taxing the fuel, we're taxing the material, so on and so forth? You see all the tax accumulations that are being added to the cost of building a home. How is it going to get cheaper? So that's sort of how I want to end off the video. Do you think that they can or will want to build homes that are cheaper? And what needs to give in order for the government and home builders to build cheaper houses? Let us know in the comments section below. I want to hear what your thoughts and opinions are, but we'll leave the video here. Don't forget, if you've learned something in this video, please feel free to share the video with someone. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave those comments below, hit that notification bell. But until next week, we'll see you again. Thanks for tuning in.